Ladies and gentlemen, I have a great guest on the program today, Molly Jong-Fast, editor at large of the Daily Beast and author. We're going to talk about this anti-birth control movement. You can follow some of the interesting things happening out of Missouri and other places, but it seems as if there's a blurring of the lines now about this. Molly, thank you for being on Indisputable. How are you?
Good, thank you for having me.
I'm glad you are talking about this issue because it really needs attention. Give some background to the anti-birth control movement happening right now.
You know, it's interesting because it's actually been happening since 2010 with Obamacare. There was this slow move to try to make it hard, try to make birth control not covered by Obamacare or by different insurers. And remember, there was the Hobby Lobby. You know, birth control has been a target of the right before, but what's happened now that's been really kind of alarming, and I saw it the last couple of weeks, which is what started me writing about it, was that there's been this sort of like move on birth control the way they've moved on abortion. So you saw Marjorie Taylor Greene saying that the morning after pill, which is a pill that causes you not to ovulate, but instead she was saying, well, that's an abortion pill, which of course it's not, it's a form of birth control. But again, it's like you see this fallow ground for them of trying to come after birth control. And it makes a lot of sense. And what we saw in this state legislature was there was this argument about how IUDs work, right? Were IUDs performing little abortions, which they weren't. But again, it was a way of trying to get at birth control. And what's happened is because Republicans now, because of these 3 Supreme Court justices who are Trump justices, we now have this very conservative Supreme Court. So Republicans know that they can do a lot of stuff they never could before. And they can kick up an abortion ruling and have these people either overturn Roe, which is a possibility, or kick it back to the states with this Casey Pennsylvania ruling, which I think is more likely.
Yeah, I actually do think that's more likely as well. I think this is going to end up becoming a state issue, which is going to be a disaster. You have no uniformity in the policy. But why do you think this issue remains at the center of Republican ideology when the truth is they will fight and put energy in something like this? But then these are the same individuals by way of policy, typically defunding programs that would actually help Planned Parenthood, that would actually help when the child is born, that would actually help with foster care and adoption funding. I'm a foster kid myself. I know what they do in the defunding area of policy as it relates to foster children. So how do they continue to make the claim that they care about life only inside the womb, but then defund money as it relates to life outside of the womb?
Yeah, there's so much hypocrisy in these Republican legislations that to start, abortion is just one of the many where Republicans, right? I mean, Republicans are like, you can't make me wear a mask, right? But But I can regulate your uterus. So I think ultimately there's just so much hypocrisy there. I think they like abortion because abortion is something that religious fundamentalists are connected to, right? And that gets the evangelicals going. We all know the statistics would show that in fact making abortion illegal doesn't prevent abortion. It just prevents safe abortion. So what's gonna happen when you kick it back to the states is that affluent women in blue states are gonna be able to get abortions. It's gonna be, poorer women in red states who are gonna have to miss a day of work and drive 5 hours and have to, really risk their jobs and livelihoods and spend a lot of money to have abortions, and they're not gonna be able to have safe abortions. And I think ultimately that's what we need to be highlighting, is that this is really about these women and making sure that they have access.
It continues to fascinate me that Republicans or conservative policies are typically on the wrong side of the sentiment of America. Like the vast majority of Americans, they're for birth control. They say, okay, that's fine. The vast majority of Americans are for a woman's right to choose. They say, okay, that's fine. And you can stack them up, Molly, you can stack them up line by line. Just policy, forget the partisanship. And the vast majority of Americans are for the left-leaning policy and against the right-leaning policy by way of public sentiment. However, Republicans have a strong messaging machine.
Yeah.
And they have people in key places that can force these policies even when the vast majority of citizens of that state or citizens of this country are in disagreement.
Yeah, that's right. And I think that you see this, Republicans have very unpopular policies, but they have this kind of machine that Democrats don't have. So they're very good at messaging and they're very good at scaring their voters. And so they end up winning. I mean, I also think they're very good at cheating and they're doing a lot of kind of stuff behind the scenes that they're not supposed to be doing. But ultimately, yes, Democratic policies are much more popular. And the problem for Democrats is they're not very good at messaging. And so you have a problem like this.
You know, Molly, I only have like a minute or two. You're doing what you're supposed to do. You're utilizing your platform, you're bringing attention to it, you're providing significant context so we understand the issue and we understand where it's coming from. But what can everyone else do? How can they push the ultimate agenda to make sure that our democracy does not erode under this corrupt leadership?
Well, that's a really good question. And I would say when it comes to Planned Parenthood, there's real opportunities for volunteering, right? There's opportunities to volunteer, to drive people, to work there, to help them. I mean, Planned Parenthood is one of the larger women's health clinics in America, and they help a lot of women from different socioeconomic backgrounds, and they do a lot besides abortion, but they do birth control and they do pap smears and they do a lot of women's health stuff. So if it were me, especially in a red state, where you could help with, being a driver for women. I mean, there's all sorts of really tangible ways to help with Planned Parenthood, and they're just a really great organization. So that would be my first step. But also, again, what Republicans are doing, right? What QAnon people are doing is they're running for the school board. So the best thing that Democrats can do is run for that school board too, right? Because we need sane people on the school boards and in these lower elected jobs.
Absolutely, very well said. Molly, thank you for your fight. You can come back to Indisputable anytime. We appreciate the work you do.